Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Craig, and today I would like to share my testimony with you. I actually have a couple testimonies because there was a time in my life when I, for lack of better terms, walked away from the Lord. Wasn't wholeheartedly walking away, but it was very misguided time in my life. But we're going to start today with when I was a wee lad. So, I grew up in a split family. My parents divorced when I was around the age of 6. My dad was in the Navy. My mom thought he was unfaithful, so she decided she wasn't going to stay with him after that point. So when he moved to Florida, we stayed in Iowa, and that was it. We rarely ever saw our dad. Tried to go see him every summer. Heard from him on holidays and birthdays. But aside from that, it didn't really have much in the way of a father figure. Till I got a little older and joined Scouts and had some men in my life. All in all, my childhood was relatively pleasant. There was no real bad stuff, no abuse, no crazy stuff, but I was an awkward child. I was shy. I had lots and lots of energy. I was bouncing off the walls. Was a little just awkward. It's hard to describe it. I didn't have the best social skills. I didn't have a lot of friends, but the friends I had were good. They enjoyed the fact that I was awkward, that I kind of had no filter for what I was saying. Wasn't that I was saying things to be mean, but it was a lack of understanding of what was harmful to others. So I would say something that was a fact to me, like, say somebody's overweight, I would say, you're a little overweight. Have you thought about diet and exercise to change that? I cared about people, but it didn't come out right. Because of that, I was treated pretty badly in school. I was also skinny, lanky, above average smart. So I got picked on for being smart. I got picked on for being small. I got picked on for having ears that stick out to the side of my head. So by the time I was 12, I was suicidal and didn't want to exist anymore. My mom had depression. My brother was mean. I was left to myself, except when I was hanging out with friends. I just felt alone, misunderstood, and like nobody cared about me, for me. My mom slept all the time when she was home. If she was awake, she was watching TV. There was little interaction with her. So one night I decided I was going to go through with taking my own life, and I had a knife. I was gonna cut my wrists, and while I was holding the knife to my wrist, I passed out. I had a waterbed, so a knife on a waterbed is not a good idea anyway, but woke up the next day, knife in the bed beside me, and was kind of regretting that I had passed out and didn't do it. And my friends, who also were my neighbors, invited me over, and their brother was there, and he was a Baptist minister. And he talked to me about Jesus that day. And when I asked the Lord to take my life, it was very much a new beginning for me. I went from being depressed and suicidal, almost taking my life 13, 14 hours before, to filled with joy and having a peace inside that certainly surpassed my understanding. And I was no longer bothered by the lack of attention, the lack of people being nice or kind. I was no longer bothered by people being mean or rude. I was just so full of joy because my life was no longer worthless, even in my eyes. That changed in a moment. Just remembering those first several years, I didn't know much about God. I knew, some Bible songs from going to Vacation Bible School when I was young, but I never understood God. And I was going to confirmation at a Methodist church during that time. And I remember after accepting the Lord, I went to church and I understood what the pastor was preaching. And I had never understood anything they were saying before. It was like, what are they talking about? This is boring. I could be running around playing with my friends right now, but I'm here in church because that's where my mom wants me. It was like having a light turned on, the blinders removed, all of that stuff. And I didn't know what to do with it, so I just shared that joy with everyone in my school and became really generous, loved giving to people, helping people. About 3 years went by, and I was invited to go to a state retreat with one of the seniors had asked me to go, and it was FCA, so Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And I went, and it was the Strong Men for God. I don't remember what they're called, but they were talking about devotion and commitment to God, and I realized that though I had let him in, though I had said yes to Jesus, I had never once figured out what he wanted for my life, what should be going on and taking place. So with that 3 days, spending the night at some church 60 miles away from home, I said yes to being committed to God. And I started reading my Bible, and I probably did more than most people would ever do, but an hour a day for the next few years until I joined the Navy. And it was like having life poured in to that extent meant that life was just pouring out of me. Like, my words were seasoned with salt. My life was showing the fruit of the Spirit. It was kind of radical in a sense that you don't see a lot of people that truly commit to God anymore, or then, or probably ever. There's few and far between, and I personally believe that God is calling the church at this point in time to either commit or to be removed, and it's a great and terrible thing. Um, so on this journey, I was never really understanding what I was to do. How is this supposed to affect my life? I wanted to be a Navy SEAL from the age of 13, which basically meant that I was in great shape. I started exercising all the time. I could run, 4 or 5 miles without getting winded, have a conversation with you. I couldn't swim well yet, but when I joined the swim team and went to state in just 2 years. Hi Bixby, stop recording.